You are listening to Career Coaching with John, spinning thoughtful approaches for lasting change. My name is John Pilkowski, and welcome. Today's episode is all about intention. Side note, I heard myself make that introduction and immediately thought about the John Tesh radio show and thought, wow, was I just influenced by John Tesh? Entertainment Tonight from the 90s? Syndicated radio legend from the late aughts? Influence comes from the strangest places, friends. Well, I am not John Tesh, but today we are going to share a little intelligence for your life and talk about how to develop the entrepreneurial mindset at work, starting with a little word called intention. This is Career Coaching with John. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome back to Career Coaching with John. Today I want to talk to you about something that can completely change how you approach work, no matter what the job you have. It's something I wish I had understood early in my career, and that's bringing an entrepreneurial mindset to your job. And I don't mean for your employer's benefit, I mean for you. Because the reality is, no matter who signs your paycheck, you should work for yourself. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about my production quality of this here podcast. You may occasionally hear some tapping. That's this sound. That is the sound of a mouse hitting my dining room table. On one screen, I have an AI written script. Well, a script I wrote with AI. And on the other screen, I have a monitor of what's recording on my podcast. This isn't perfect, and it's intended not to be perfect. We are on a journey together. I'll continue. Employment, as I see it, is a partnership. It is an exchange of benefits, not just an exchange of time for money. The business owner controls the direction of their business, but do not control your direction. That's up to you. And that is where intention comes in. Okay, mindset versus intention. What's the difference? Now, we talk a lot about mindset. Seeing yourself as someone with value, skills, and the ability to happen. That is important. Earlier, in another version of this, and again, learning process, I speak about having the entrepreneurial spirit at work for yourself, developing that entrepreneurial mindset. But we want to give this a little bit more focus and a little bit direction. Well, that's what I call intention. Yeah, we'll say I call it that. So mindset is that foundation. It's how you view yourself and your work. But intention, again, that gives you a little bit of direction. Without it, you're just floating, hoping things will get better. But what does that even mean? Where are you actually trying to go? And listen, I get it. I've always felt like I should be moving towards something bigger. For a long time, I didn't even know what bigger was. Now, I consider myself a pretty smart guy, and my lack of direction in life has been, a lot of it has been informed by the fact that I should be doing something better than what I'm doing. And the fact is I didn't even know what that was. I just wanted more. More responsibility, more opportunities, more money, more recognition. I don't know. Anything. When I didn't define what bigger was or what it actually meant, it wasn't enough. And I imagine a lot of you feel the same way. And that's what getting clear on intention actually means. So, let's shift from more to purpose. Take a moment to talk about you. What do you actually want? Do you want to be recognized for your ideas? Do you want to feel more challenged in your work? Do you want to leave this job and build on something on your own? Whatever it is, getting specific about the intention stops you from grasping for more and helps you move from purpose. Once you have that clarity, it changes how you show up, how you make decisions, and how you interact with the people around you. And we'll take a moment to reflect on that. I think when you... No, we're not ready for that yet. Let's keep going. Using the job you have to get where you want to go. Now, here's the fun part. When you know your intention, you can start using your job strategically. Let's say your goal is to get recognized for your ideas. That means you start speaking up more in meetings, taking credit where it's due, and finding ways to showcase your strengths. Let's deviate from the script for a second. What does that mean? Well, if you're working for yourself, does it really matter if you're not very good at this? It's a learning process. One of the problems I think we have in our modern world is everything's perfect all the time, or everything feels like it has to be perfect all the time. And when it's not perfect, everybody just dumps on it. That's the world that we're living in, and we're subjected by all sorts of bits and pieces of media or, I don't care. And we start to think that we're not good enough. And it's easier to look at somebody who is good, because that's what's being fed to you, and think, okay, well, I can aspire to be something, but I'm not going to be that. But so whatever, I'll just waste my time. When you look at an entrepreneurial spirit, or you take that mindset and your intention is to say, I want to get recognized for my ideas, you kind of understand that you're not going to be great at it at first. That speaking up in a meeting, or speaking up to your boss, or advocating for your ideas or for what you want, all of a sudden becomes a learning process. I may not be successful this time, but next time I might be more successful. Maybe I will learn from what I just said. Maybe I'm going to take the feedback that they gave me and say, you don't suck at your job. You're just not really communicating it very well. And you work on the communication. And you move forward to find ways to, again, showcase your strengths. Back to the script. Maybe you want to leave and build something for yourself. Well, if that's the case, then your job isn't just a paycheck, it's your training ground. You start to look at your role differently. You ask yourself, what skills can you develop? What connections can you make? How can you use this job to move closer to where you want to be? Here's the truth. If you're going to spend 40 plus hours a week working, you might as well make it work for you. I just got an email. Let's reflect on what this could mean. You know, one of the things that always ran through my mind when I was working is how the job I'm in is my practice. I'm using somebody else's money to fulfill one of my ideas. I started to become resentful when I wasn't able to do that, or I didn't feel like I could do that. But so often I'd think that people weren't stopping me from doing that. I was stopping myself because I didn't think something was good enough. You know, part of why I've written a script here with ChatGPT is because it's doing the nonsense work that I don't want to do, or more importantly, I'll just going to censor myself out from. I'm not going to say cheesy stuff like intention, even though the intention was the word I stuck in. But I probably have a hard time saying that if somebody else didn't write it for me. And again, that's the training ground of an entrepreneurial mind. We came into this, we came into this with the fact that I just simply didn't want to have another job. I didn't want a normal job. I was tired of them. I wasn't working. It wasn't working for me. I was working. I just loved working, but I didn't want a job. I didn't want to have to report to somebody else and have to go through somebody else's thing. I wanted to help somebody else, help other people find a vision for themselves and go do it for themselves so they could advocate. I was tired of hearing people who are upset with their jobs and their lives and aren't willing to do anything about it, or don't know how to do anything about it, and don't know how to find the resources to do anything about it. And this is when I started to become consumed and thinking about. So I thought, well, maybe I could start making money on it. Do I know how to do this? I give pretty good advice, I'd imagine. I'm a good listener, but I haven't got a clue how to start a business. I'm, therefore, giving myself the entrepreneurial mind, allowing myself the entrepreneurial mind, and allowing and looking at the resources that I have and allowing those resources to give me a path to learn, to try, and to make mistakes. The permission to suck. If I think about it in the context of my job, say if I'm in a job, if I think about the context of, say, my last real job, when I'm learning something and I'm making mistakes, I am progressing towards something. I feel weird about presenting a half project or a half product to my boss. I feel weird about the standards being low. At the same time, I can remember being a manager and just wanting to have something. Anyway, let's continue. Tracking your own wins. Now, here's where a lot of people get stuck. Well, say we're starting to make these changes. You feel like you're making progress, but no one else seems to notice, and that can be frustrating. Listen, I'm not worried about the people who feel threatened by you moving in your own direction, and neither should you. The real issue, as I see it, are the people who just don't care. Apathy in the workplace is very hard to deal with. That why bother attitude can be contagious if you're not careful. That's why I need you to track your own wins. Now think about measuring your own ROI, your own return on investment. Every time you solve a problem, you make an impact, or you learn something valuable, that's proof that your effort is paying off. If you don't track it, it disappears. When I listened back to the first podcast episode I made, I thought, I don't sound very genuine. I sound like I'm reading an AI script, an AI written script, which I was. So you take those lessons, you learn from them, and then you build on them. I'm not ditching the script because it keeps me focused. So how do you do that? We'll write it down. We're keeping a running list of what you've accomplished, big or small. Did you close a difficult sale? Did you help a coworker solve a problem? Did you navigate a tense meeting with confidence? All this stuff counts. When we frame these things in terms of growth instead of just listing tasks, we think about what that says about you. I've grown. I've handled a crisis without panicking is different than I sent a bunch of emails. We use our wins to make decisions. When you track progress, patterns emerge. You see what excites you and what drains you, and what actually moves you forward. And no one else paying attention, you become your own scoreboard. That's how you stay focused. That's how you stay motivated. That's how you prove to yourself that you're getting somewhere. And again, that apathy, when everyone around you says, why bother? And you say, because this isn't good enough for me, that's why you bother. Let's take a little break. That was kind of nice, wasn't it? I'm actually a bit surprised. That was Surprising Snapshots, Guitar Jazz 3. And it's taken from this non-copyrighted music website. Let's go back to the script. My final thoughts owning your career. Let's bring this all together. Now, you don't just work for a company, you work for yourself. Your employer doesn't decide your path, you do. Mindset is the foundation, but intention is what moves you forward. And tracking your progress keeps you from falling into the trap of apathy. Or perhaps the trap for you is not good enough. Here's the thing. When you start moving forward with intention, people will notice. Some people will be inspired. Some people won't care. And some might even feel uncomfortable. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you know where you're going. I think there is one last thing that I need to talk about. And I'm going to go off script for a second because I'm worried I'm going to lose this. Knowing where you're going doesn't mean you have a final destination. It doesn't have to mean that. It could just mean that I want to do something artistic. I want to feel like I'm capable. I want to have an idea. I want to get paid for my ideas, not my time. That was my thing. It didn't mean that I wanted to become something. The something I wanted to become is, well, it's still in progress. But having the intent of saying, this isn't good enough, I want to go and do something different, and that something different looks like this, it makes it a lot easier to break down. It makes it a lot harder to get overwhelmed. Because when you can do the individual tasks, when you've got your, I'm trying to remember what the project management term is. I'll find it later. And you break down your individual tasks. Well, that individual task is certainly something you can handle. You know how to use the internet, right? You know how to look it up. I know how to ask ChatGTP to help me write something. But I didn't really know that that was something I could do until I tried. So, if you're not there, if you're not really sure where to start, well, that's where I come in. As a career coach, I help people figure out their direction. I help them break free from those career ruts, and I start helping them make real progress. This isn't something that says you have to change careers. It might just be that you like where you are, you just don't like the way you're managed. That's something I can help with. I hope that made sense to everyone. Again, this is a work in progress, and we are doing it together. But for more information, please visit johnfielkowski.com, or if you aren't good with Polish last names, you'll find a link in the description of this podcast. That was my bit on intention, and there will be more, I'm sure. This was Career Coaching with John, thoughtful approaches for lasting change.